You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you?
Iron Man.
Hey, I don't have a good anecdote for this week. Oh no, you know what? I do. When I was 16, 17 years old, I had an online girlfriend. She went to a different school. But later we moved in together. We got engaged. And then I moved in with her and she cheated on me and I moved back home. But when we were dating, she was really good at drawing. Like when we lived apart, she was really good at drawing. And she would always, show us her art and stuff. And I don't know if I have any of them left. I think I burned all of them when I was mad because of the cheating. But if I find something else, get it. Anyway, it was really good art. It was like professional grade art. And I was always showing it off because, hey, skills. And my friends were supportive and stuff. But they were like, are you sure she's a good artist? And stuff like that. And I was like, hey, come on, But after we broke up, I realized that every piece of art that she showed me was traced comic book art. And she just kind of like changed small details. So I want to thank her for helping get me into comics in the worst way possible, because it's thanks to that I'm able to do this video. Okay, when Robert Downey Jr. was announced as Dr. Doom, I think there were a lot of responses across the internet. There was a lot of this and a lot of this.
What the fuck?
And I would like to talk about why I think he's a perfect choice for this role, both from an acting standpoint and looking at Marvel as a company. As you read in the title, it's going to be 3 good reasons and 4 bad ones why Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom is going to be great. Let's start with the first good reason. But first, editor me, hit the intro. So, good reason 1. Kang Dynasty wasn't going to be great. Kang was introduced as He Who Remains in Loki Season 1, and he was brilliant, in my opinion. That episode, the season finale of Loki Season 1, is one of my favorite episodes of most things, honestly. And then something happened. He lost. And then he showed up again in Quantumania, and he lost. And then in Loki Season 2, even though he was technically Victor Timely, what he did was he lost. And in comics, that's fine, right? Batman beats up the Joker, sends him to Arkham. The Joker gets out, and they do the same dance the next issue. We expect it. But moviegoers expect closure when a movie ends. And that's why sequels rarely have the same villain again. So there are exceptions. Darth Vader is the first one we think of. Also kids' movies, and especially horror movies. Also Biff Tannen, I think. But by and large, it's really rare that the same villain in the same form is fought repeatedly. Because once you lose, you're done. Right? You have to have an incredible gravitas in order to convince the audience that when you lose, you're not done. In fact, if you can think of anything that doesn't fit the restrictions that I put up, let me know in the comments. I would love to see those movies if I haven't seen them already and just forgot. But the audience has to understand that the entity that has been momentarily defeated is not a loser. And I think Quantumania, largely because of the direction, didn't do that. When Kang lost, he seemed like a loser. Kang Dynasty could have been a spectacle, but I'm not entirely sure it would have been as good as Infinity War. And I don't think we would talk about it like we talk about Infinity War. I definitely don't think it would have had the same social impact that Infinity War had, because it's really hard to pick that up, and I don't think they set things up for that. All right, let's go to our first bad reason, which is this is a continuation for groundwork that's already laid in the MCU. This one's a little flimsy, but I do think that it's a valid reason. Tony Stark wanted a suit of armor around the world. When Robert Downey Jr. was introduced, he said, new mask, same task. And the fatal flaw of Doctor Doom and what makes him the most dangerous is that he cares for his people more than anything else. In a sense, that makes him an anti-Captain America. They are opposites of each other in a way that Cap and Iron Man could never be. And we know that Robert Downey Jr. can handle that kind of character and knock it out of the park. So with that comes the fear of like a snarky Doctor Doom, which I don't think anyone really wants. Doom is a presence, and for him to be doing the same kind of thing as Ultron did would be a huge loss of gravitas, right? But Robert Downey Jr. has taken on roles that have been serious. I think the first scene when he returns from Endgame is a great example of that. He's taken on serious roles, and I'm sure he can do it again. So, good reason number 2, Robert Downey Jr. is a safe bet. I'm going to pull up some things, and I think that you probably know this because, but let's look at some stuff together. So, from 1996 through 2001, Downey was arrested several times on charges related to drugs, including cocaine, heroin, and marijuana. He's been to jail a few times. He relapsed. He was on Ally McBeal, and I don't know how much lower you can go than that. He lost roles. He lost his house. He suffered a divorce. He fell pretty hard, and he got back up. A lot of us know that story to an extent. If you're interested in him as a person or just media presence, right? I have family members that have had experiences with drugs. I can tell you it's not an easy thing to do in general. And it was a difficult journey. It had to have been. And he came back, and he came back as Iron Man. One of the reasons why he took the role is because it's so close to him as a person, right? Someone who has everything, loses it, gets trapped in a hole, and has to fight his way out, in a sense. There's an anecdotal story that the reason that Tony Stark goes to Burger King specifically when he gets back to America is because going to a Burger King and eating a Whopper is one of the things that convinced Robert Downey Jr. to snap out of his funk and finally go to rehab for realsies. It is kind of like a bitch you live like this kind of thing. I'm not entirely sure if that's true. Like I said, it's anecdotal, but it does add a bit of a dimension to that scene. And now I have to pull up another thing, which again, we're all aware of. I don't want to focus on it too much, but Majors was arrested on assault, strangulation, and harassment charges. Thankfully, his partner is safe and okay. And since then, there have been more and more things, right? March 25th of 2023. This is last year, as of the recording of this. It is impossible, and it should be impossible, to lead a franchise while you're going through court cases for assault, for abusing people, for any kind of court cases, let's say, right? So from Marvel's perspective, from Disney's perspective, dropping Majors was the right thing to do. Whether it turns out he's guilty or not, the court of public opinion has ruled. And we've seen enough to know that it's not safe to put him in that role right now. I'm not saying he should never act again, because that would be the same as saying that Robert Downey Jr. should have never acted again. If he's found guilty and serves time and gets the help that he needs, I would hope that he has a future, because the stuff that he made in the past, Majors was great. But he shouldn't be acting through this. comparatively, Robert Downey Jr. is a success story, and he brought the MCU up with him. So for them to turn around and say, here's a safe guy that you liked, is not a foolish decision. It's safe. And I'm not entirely sure safe is a bad thing. Right? So bad reason number 2. Previous iterations of Doctor Doom were done poorly. And there's one major reason for that, which is Doom was set up as the primary antagonist for the Fantastic Four. But he was also set up as their kind of mirror version. You know, Marvel has a habit of doing this where the first villain is just the good guy negative, right? Sungwon Cho, ProZD has a sketch about that. But Iron Man, Ironmonger kind of thing, right? That's not who Doctor Doom is. Again, we're reaching the limits of my Marvel Comics knowledge, but Doctor Doom isn't a villain to any one superhero. Doom is Doom. He, on his best day, is a match for the Avengers, the X-Men, everyone. Right? Here's a spoiler for the Secret Wars, but the reason why it's necessary to bring him in to the Secret Wars is because he takes over and becomes the villain of the Secret Wars, even though he doesn't start off as it. He's that powerful. So he's not just the anti-Fantastic Four, which is what previous versions have done. And I think the best way to tell a Doom story is to have Doom be Doom, which is why, here's good reason number 3. The right people are behind the camera. Doctor Doom would work best as the protagonist of a series when we're following him. That's my opinion, right? The Russos directed Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. And Civil War and Infinity War work as well as they do because the protagonist of the story is who we would consider the villain. Like, Civil War starts with Cap leading the story because technically it's Captain America Civil War, right? But in my opinion, it becomes an Iron Man movie when it's clear that signing the Accords in this instance is a bad idea. Right? Infinity War works because Thanos is the protagonist of it. It's Thanos' quest. And that's why it doesn't feel like a letdown when the quest is successful. Stepping out of the box, we know logically, watching the movie, that there's going to be a part 2, right? We've seen the advertisements, we've listened to the interviews, and we know the contracts and stuff. But within the story, when you're sitting in the theater, seeing Thanos' success, seeing him smiling over the rising sun because he had completed his goal, feels like the end of a journey. And from a storytelling perspective, he's the protagonist of that story. That was well done storytelling, in my opinion. And Thanos undoubtedly is the villain. I think for Doomsday to be successful in telling a Doom story, it's going to have to do the same thing. And I think it'll work because in a similar way, Doom isn't just a villain. He is a multifaceted character who has done good things, has done horrible things, but is always on the side of his people and is very steadfast in his goals, right? So the third bad reason, the one that everyone knows, recasting has happened before, right? It's fine. Michael B. Jordan was Johnny Storm, and he was Killmonger. Chris Evans was Johnny Storm, and he was Captain America. So it's perfectly fine for Robert Downey Jr. to be
A dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
And my final bad reason, he put butts in seats. That's it. From a numbers standpoint, because, of course, the ultimate villain of anything is capitalism. Robert Downey Jr. puts butts in seats. in lead roles and in all roles. Another safe choice, I think, would have been Scarlett Johansson as Doctor Doom. But I think after some consideration, Marvel's going to go in a different direction. And to close off, speculating on what Marvel could do to ensure that this version of Doom works. Kind of going over what I've said. Don't connect him to anyone. All right, let Doom be Doom. Don't make him the anti-Tony Stark or the anti-Captain America too much or anything like that. If you want to have parallels between him and Mr. Fantastic, that would make some sense, right? But connecting to a hero is asking him to lose. And I'm not entirely sure that a film series, 2 films where we expect or want Doom to lose at the end is going to be wholly satisfying. That's my first thing. Second one, I know this is going to be tough because of how Marvel currently does things, but do not take that mask off as much as possible. One of the things that makes Doom dangerous, in my opinion, is his appearance. To have him, be a presence, to have him have the presence, to have him have the gravitas that Doom has, that mask needs to stay on. I think one of the things that everyone's worried about right now is everyone's going to do the Spider-Man point and be like, that's Tony Stark. And in my opinion, that would in fact be a mistake, right? Let Doom be Doom and let him wear that mask. The final thing that Marvel can do to ensure that this is a success is to please remember that I am available as a consultant if possible. Have I read all of the Doom comics? No, because as we said at the beginning of this video, I've had girlfriends before. Do I know everything about Doctor Doom? God, no. I know everything about Dragon Ball, and that's a different thing. But I can tell a story. I've got spunk, and I'm relatively cheap. So, Marvel, if you're listening, just give me a call. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know if you disagree with me. Let me know what your favorite Robert Downey Jr. movie is. I'm not out here, defending the billionaire or anything like that. I'm just a fan of good movies, and I think these are going to be a couple good movies. I know phases 4 and 5 haven't been great. I think I liked more of them than the general populace did, but that's for another video. But seeing Robert Downey Jr. revealed as Doctor Doom gave me a good gut feeling. I want to know what you think. I'm doing better at responding to comments. Please don't forget to subscribe, like the video. We reached 50 subscribers. I'm super happy about that. Our next goal is 100, which will let me have 100 subscribers. So share this with your friends. Share it for anyone who, share it to anyone who wants to see movies, etc. As always, thank you so much for falling upside up with me. It's the best way to fall down. Hail Doom!